Couldn't even afford new? Dad said, rolling the words like a joke for the room. Pathetic, my aunt whispered loud enough to land. Someone snorted. Someone else tapped a fork against a glass like applause. I smiled the kind of smile you wear at a dentist's office. It didn't reach anywhere. My palms were stained faintly blue from the ribbon dye. A cheap satin bow. I'd tied myself at 2 a.m. because I couldn't sleep and the silence of my apartment kept measuring how much I wasn't. I had saved for months, comparing listings, test driving in the rain, choosing the one that felt solid and safe. Not flashy. Not new. Just honest. Hi everyone, my name is Rowan Hale. I'm 27. Here's the part you'll judge me for. I still wanted my father to be proud of me. I still wanted a nod that said I belonged at the big table. The backyard smelled like grilled onions and wet grass. Cousins played cornhole like they were aiming at me. The BMW sat in the driveway, clean as a confession, the bow listing to one side where the tape had given up. It runs beautifully, I'd said, soft as if a gentle tone could make the word used sound like steady. Dad's eyes skimmed over the car, then over me as if both were receipts he didn't remember approving. Don't be dramatic, Aunt Lydia added, sipping her lemonade. A man like your father deserves new. New isn't a virtue, I said, voice because quiet. Then it's an excuse, she returned, and the circle chuckled. I looked at Dad's hands, the tan lines under his watch, the callus on his thumb from golf. I thought of all the birthdays I'd missed, gifts for myself to make this one real. I thought of the mechanic who had said with grease under his nails, "This is a good car, kid. They'll last. That's what matters." Keys, I said, light as air, and held them up. They caught the afternoon sun and scattered it in tiny shards across the grass. I heard my heartbeat in the hollow between two laughs. Dad didn't reach for them. Something in me stood up even though I was already standing. The part that had learned to say please and thank you also knew how to say nothing. So I nodded. I untied the bow, the blue dye smearing at the base of my thumb like a bruise, and slipped the keys back into my pocket. I walked to the car. The driver's door clicked open with a sound that felt like a sentence ending. I got in, shut it gently, a quiet I wanted them to notice, and drove away, not fast, just final. In the rear view, the party receded like a photo curling at the edges. I slept badly. Coffee cooled untouched. At dawn, the sky went pale and my phone began to buzz. One call, then 5, then a frenzy, their names stacking on the glass like a verdict I hadn't agreed to hear. The first voicemail came from Dad, his voice strained but careful. "Rowan, this isn't funny. Bring the car back. You didn't have to overreact." Then Aunt Lydia's message, nasal and brittle. "You've embarrassed your father. People saw you leave in his gift." I stared at the phone, thumb hovering over delete. The notifications multiplied, 32 missed calls. Then 40. Then 60. The word family looked so small on that glowing screen, like it belonged to someone else. When I finally stepped outside, the BMW sat where I'd parked it, still, silent, a little proud. The morning air smelled like old rain and possibility. I ran my hand across the hood. It was cool, polished, untouched. The irony hit me. This used car was the first thing in my life that hadn't judged me back. By noon, Mom called. "Your father's furious, Rowan," she said quietly. "He told everyone you stole his gift back." I laughed. A single breath, sharp and humorless. "So now it's his gift? I paid for it. Don't twist things. He says you embarrassed him in front of the neighbors." I just left. Exactly. Silence stretched between us. Thin, trembling. I could hear dishes clinking in the background, the same house I grew up in, the same kitchen where Dad's approval was currency. By evening the calls turned desperate. "He's sick over this," Mom said in another voicemail. "Just talk to him." But here's the truth I hadn't told anyone. I didn't buy that car for him. I bought it for me. To prove I could build something real out of scraps. To silence the voice that said I'd always be the disappointment with a temporary job and mismatched furniture. I sat in the driver's seat, started the engine, and the hum filled the apartment lot like a heartbeat returning. That night I texted one line in the family group chat. "The car's in my name. Don't worry, I'll take good care of it. Seen by 12. No reply. Outside, the streetlights flickered on one by one, like the world quietly agreeing with my choice. The next morning I woke to a knock that wasn't polite, the kind that thudded like guilt. Through the peephole, my cousin Nate, shoulders squared, eyes already rehearsed with disappointment. Uncle wants to see you, he said. Then he can call. He did. You didn't answer. Behind him the parking lot shimmered with heat. The BMW caught the sun, the silver paint flaring like defiance. Nate crossed his arms. He's saying you embarrassed the whole family, Rowan. You left him standing there. In front of everyone. I left a situation, I said. Not a man. He says you took the car out of spite. I almost smiled. Spite would have been leaving the bill in the glove box. He sighed, already tired of defending someone he didn't understand. You know he's telling people you're unstable, right? That stung more than I expected. Because it wasn't new, it was recycled. Like the word used. I leaned against the doorframe. Tell him I'm done auditioning for approval. I bought something dependable. Maybe he should try that too. Nate's jaw tightened. He's saying he might go to the bank. Get it transferred. It's titled in my name, I said. I learned from him, always check the paperwork. He blinked, then half-laughed like he couldn't decide if he admired me or feared me. You really changed, huh? No, I said softly. I just stopped apologizing. When he left, I sat on the porch steps, coffee cooling between my palms. Birds were fighting over crumbs near the curb, fierce, small, unapologetic. The air tasted like rain that hadn't fallen yet. By noon another message arrived. From Dad this time. Short. If that car means more to you than your family, keep it. I stared at it for a long time, fingers trembling, not from regret but release. Because for once he'd said what he truly meant. I typed back slowly. I plan to. And for the first time in years I drove somewhere without looking at the rearview mirror, leaving their voices to fade behind the hum of the engine and the soft, poetic sound of my own piece beginning. That night I parked the BMW by the old pier. The one Dad used to bring me to when I was little, where we'd eat takeout fries from paper bags and he'd talk about, someday. Someday when I'd make him proud. Someday when I'd be successful enough to buy him something he could show off. The wooden boards creaked under my shoes. The wind smelled like salt and something metallic. Maybe memory. I watched my reflection in the car window, a faint silhouette layered over the rippling water behind me. It hit me then. This was the first gift I'd ever given myself that wasn't designed to earn someone's love. The phone buzzed again. I almost ignored it but answered anyway. Rowan, your father hasn't eaten all day, she said quickly as if reading from a script. He's heartbroken. Heartbroken or embarrassed? I asked. Don't do this. He just expected more gratitude. I gave him a car. You gave him humiliation, she whispered. People are talking. I closed my eyes. The waves sounded like applause I didn't trust. Maybe people should stop expecting perfection from the only daughter who never asked for anything. She sighed softer now. You know how he is. Yeah, I said. And he knows how I've become. When we hung up, I sat in the driver's seat and opened the glove box. Inside were old service papers, the inspection receipt and the mechanic's note. Engine solid. Heart strong. He'd written it as a joke maybe, but I kept staring at it like it was prophecy. The sky deepened into indigo, the kind that makes you think time can heal things it never touched. I rested my head on the steering wheel and whispered, I'm done being a gift that expires. The next morning I woke to an email from the dealership. The title transfer had cleared. The car was officially, legally, irreversibly mine. At the bottom of the email there was a note from the salesman. Congrats, Ms. Hale. Your dad called this morning. Asked if he could buy it back. We told him it's no longer available. For once I didn't feel guilty. Just, seen. By evening my phone buzzed again, this time with a new number. I almost ignored it until I heard the voicemail. Rowan, it's your father. I just wanted to talk. About things. The hesitation between his words was thick, the kind that used to come right before an apology he'd never finish. I didn't call back. Not yet. Instead I drove to the small diner on 7th. The one I used to love before Dad said it was too cheap. The waitress recognized me. Haven't seen you in years, hon. Yeah, I said, smiling faintly. Guess I stopped showing up to places that didn't feel safe. The booth's red vinyl cracked under my palms. I ordered coffee and pie the way I did when I was broke and hopeful. Outside, rain started to fall, soft, cinematic, as if the world was finally giving me atmosphere to match the ache. When I returned home, I found something strange taped to my door. An envelope with Dad's handwriting. Inside a note. I didn't mean to make you feel small. I just wanted you to aim higher. You remind me too much of myself. Maybe that's why I'm so hard on you. The car's just a car. But you were supposed to be more. I stared at the words until they blurred. That line, you were supposed to be more, hit like both a wound and a prayer. Because I was more. Just not in his language. I placed the note on the counter and poured myself a glass of water, watching the condensation slide down the side like a slow tear. I didn't owe anyone. The phone buzzed again, this time a text from Aunt Lydia. He's telling everyone you've gone cold. That success ruined you. I typed back before I could stop myself. If peace ruins me, then maybe I was never whole before. She didn't respond. But in the silence that followed, I realized something powerful. I wasn't angry anymore. I was simply done. Outside, the rain turned steady, like applause for finally choosing myself. 2 days later, I found myself driving toward the neighborhood I once called home. Not to visit, just to pass through. The roads felt narrower than I remembered, the houses smaller. Or maybe it was me who'd grown beyond their scale. Dad's house sat on the corner, white siding gleaming in the sun, the same flag flapping on the porch. For a moment I slowed down, and saw him through the window. Sitting at the kitchen table, head bowed, phone in his hand. I almost parked. Almost. But something inside me whispered, "You've already said everything that mattered by leaving." So I rolled the window down. The scent of cut grass hit me, mingled with the faint sound of a lawnmower somewhere in the distance. It used to mean Saturday mornings and pancakes. Now it smelled like memory and restraint. That night I got another text, not from Dad this time but from my younger cousin Ella. "Your dad showed up at the dealership. He tried to buy the car back. They said no. He was quiet after. Like, really quiet." My chest tightened. Regret, pity, anger, they all blurred into something quieter. Not forgiveness yet. Just understanding. I typed back. "Tell him it wasn't about the car." "He knows," she replied. "He just doesn't know how to say it." Later that evening I sat in my driveway, headlights off, hands on the wheel. The world outside was still, just the sound of a train somewhere far away and the tick of the cooling engine. I pulled out Dad's note again, rereading that last line. "You were supposed to be more." I whispered to the empty air, "I am." And for once I didn't need him to confirm it. The car hummed softly when I started it again, like it agreed, steady, alive, mine. That night I slept without my phone on the nightstand. The silence was the most expensive piece I'd ever owned. Sunday morning, sunlight spilled through my blinds, warm and almost forgiving. I brewed coffee, the kind Dad always said was too bitter, and sat at my kitchen table, the one I'd bought secondhand, but sanded myself until it gleamed. Every scratch had a story, every mark a memory. For the first time in years I felt anchored. Then another message came, this time from Mom. "He wants to see you. Just once." He's calmer now. I stared at the screen, the steam from my mug fogging my glasses. Part of me wanted to ignore it. Another part whispered that closure doesn't come knocking twice. By afternoon I drove to their house. The same house that had taught me how love could come with conditions. The door opened before I could knock. Mom's eyes softened. "He's in the backyard," she said. Dad was sitting on the old swing he'd built when I was 12. The wood was faded, one chain squeaking slightly in the wind. He didn't look at me at first. Just stared at the grass, like searching for a version of us that still existed there. "I overreacted," he said finally, voice rough. "It wasn't about the car. It never was." "I know," I said. "It was about control." He flinched, not at my tone but at how right it sounded. "I didn't want you to struggle the way I did." "I didn't," I replied softly. "I survived the way you taught me, but I learned something you never did." "What's that?" "That love doesn't have to look like ownership." For a long moment neither of us spoke. The only sound was the creak of the swing and the wind brushing through the hedges. He nodded slowly, eyes glassy. "You've got my stubbornness. And your silence," I said, half smiling. He looked at me then, not as a daughter to correct, but as a woman he'd underestimated. "Keep the car," he murmured. "I plan to," I said, my voice steady but kind. And when I turned to leave, the silence between us finally felt peaceful, not punishing. The week after that conversation, something subtle shifted. Not loud forgiveness, just a quiet rearranging of air between us. Dad didn't text much, but every few days he sent a picture. The yard after mowing, Mom's new flowers, once even a sunset over the driveway where the BMW had sat that night. No words. Just gestures. That was his language now, restraint. I'd started driving more. Not far, just aimlessly, through long roads lined with pines, past diners that smelled like syrup and grease, the kind of places where nobody asked who you were trying to become. Every time the tires hummed against asphalt, I thought of that backyard. Of laughter disguised as love, of lessons disguised as guilt. One evening I parked by the overlook on Riverbend Road. The sky was lavender and gold, the horizon flickering with the first hints of night. I leaned against the hood, the metal warm under my palms, and exhaled. This car had been the spark, but not the story. The story was me, choosing not to shrink, not to beg, not to return what I'd earned just to keep peace that never protected me. My phone buzzed again, a message from Dad. "Happy birthday, kid. I know it's late. Hope the car's running good." I smiled, small but real. "It is," I typed back. "Finally is." I sat there for a while, letting the evening settle around me. The wind moved through the trees the same way time had moved through my anger, carving out space for something softer. As the last light faded, I caught my reflection in the window. Older, steadier, still a little broken but whole in all the right places. I whispered, not to him but to the version of me who once stood small in that backyard. "You did it. You chose yourself." The engine started with a low, confident purr. I turned toward home, not the house I grew up in but the life I built afterward. And for the first time the road ahead didn't feel borrowed. It felt entirely, irrevocably mine.